When food becomes the final course, even the most innocent meal can turn deadly, and these 6 most bizarre deaths caused by food prove that culinary curiosity sometimes comes with the ultimate price. It was February 14, 2019, when Lyra Kalin's relentless pursuit of culinary perfection led her to the most dangerous kitchen in Los Angeles. At 38, Lyra had built a fearsome reputation as the city's most unforgiving food critic. Standing 5 feet 4 inches with sharp green eyes and silver hair, she wielded her pen like a scalpel for Los Angeles Gourmet magazine. Her weekly column had shuttered 3 restaurants in the past year. Obsessively health-conscious and razor-thin, Lyra approached every meal with scientific precision and zero tolerance for mediocrity. That Valentine's evening, she arrived at Molecule Restaurant with her girlfriend Rachel Martinez, a 34-year-old food photographer whose warm personality balanced Lyra's cold professionalism. Rachel had been documenting their relationship through food, hoping to soften Lyra's increasingly bitter worldview. Head chef Isabella Santos, a 29-year-old prodigy trained under Ferran Adrià, had staked her career on impressing the notorious critic. Isabella's hands trembled as she served each course of the Frozen Fire tasting menu, knowing Lyra's review could make or destroy her reputation overnight. The evening progressed with molecular gastronomy theatrics, edible flowers, spherified olives, and foams. Lyra remained stone-faced, taking meticulous notes while Rachel captured each presentation. At 9:45 p.m., Isabella made a fatal decision. Desperate to salvage what she sensed was becoming another devastating review, she invited Lyra into the kitchen to witness the preparation of their signature Frozen Fire cocktail sphere. The dessert required liquid nitrogen to freeze a cocktail mixture into a delicate shell. David Kim, the 26-year-old sous chef handling the liquid nitrogen, had performed this technique hundreds of times, but with Lyra's intimidating presence looming over his shoulder, his steady hands betrayed him. As he poured the -320-degree liquid nitrogen onto the cocktail mixture, Lyra leaned closer, demanding to observe every detail. The splash happened in milliseconds. 2 ounces of liquid nitrogen struck Lyra directly in the face and mouth. Her saliva froze instantly, creating ice crystals that expanded with devastating force. Her tongue, soft palate, and throat tissues became brittle as glass, cracking and shattering as extreme cold penetrated deeper. Lyra's scream died as her vocal cords froze solid. The liquid nitrogen continued down her esophagus, flash freezing everything it touched. When she tried to move her tongue, it shattered like a wine glass, sending bloody fragments across the kitchen floor. The kitchen erupted in chaos. Isabella screamed for someone to call 911 while David stood frozen in horror. Rachel rushed in, her camera forgotten as she watched her girlfriend collapse, blood and ice crystals pouring from her mouth. As Lyra's frozen tissues thawed, massive internal hemorrhaging began. Her esophagus, riddled with perforations from expanding ice, couldn't contain the bleeding. The liquid nitrogen had damaged her trachea, making breathing impossible as her airway filled with blood and debris. Emergency responders arrived at 9:52 p.m., but faced an impossible situation. The extensive tissue damage prevented establishing an airway, and internal bleeding was too severe to control. Despite their efforts, Lyra was pronounced dead at 10:31 p.m. from hypothermic shock and massive hemorrhaging. The aftermath was swift. Molecule Restaurant closed permanently within 48 hours. David Kim faced criminal charges for negligent homicide and was banned from professional kitchens nationwide. Isabella Santos abandoned the culinary world entirely. The incident sparked nationwide regulations governing liquid nitrogen use in restaurants, requiring specialized training and safety protocols. In death, Lyra achieved what had eluded her in life. She became the story rather than its critic, her final review written in blood and ice across a kitchen floor, a permanent reminder that some pursuits of perfection exact the ultimate price. It was July 4th, 2018, when the annual Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest at Coney Island witnessed its most tragic moment in competitive eating history. Reese Montgomery, a 29-year-old professional competitive eater from Phoenix, had dedicated 6 years to the sport that would claim his life. Standing 6 feet 2 inches and weighing 280 pounds, Reese possessed the build that made him formidable in competitions. His aggressive, theatrical style earned him 8th place globally and a devoted following who appreciated his showmanship. Working part-time as a warehouse supervisor, Reese had spent months preparing for this contest. His personal record of 58 hot dogs in 10 minutes was impressive, but he dreamed of shattering the world record of 76 hot dogs held by defending champion Joey Martinez. Reese hired a specialized coach and perfected his dangerous whole swallowing method. His girlfriend, Amanda Foster, a 26-year-old emergency room nurse, reluctantly supported his career despite knowing the medical risks. She attended every competition with a medical kit, her nursing instincts constantly alert. The Coney Island atmosphere was electric that Independence Day morning. Thousands packed the venue as competitors took positions at the long table. At 12 p.m., Judge Robert Johnson raised the starting flag. Reese launched into his signature style, separating hot dogs from buns, dunking bread in warm water, then swallowing entire hot dogs whole while cramming soggy buns into his mouth. Reese took an early lead, consuming like a machine. By 3 minutes, he had devoured 28 hot dogs, putting him on a record-breaking pace. Sweat poured down his face as he maintained a relentless rhythm. Joey Martinez watched nervously as his record appeared threatened. The defending champion's usual calm showed cracks as Reese continued his unprecedented pace. At 4 minutes and 15 seconds, Reese made a fatal decision. Determined to maintain speed, he grabbed 3 full hot dogs and attempted to swallow them simultaneously. The mass lodged in his esophagus, creating a complete blockage 6 inches above his stomach. Reese's face flushed red as he realized something was wrong. He couldn't breathe, swallow, or dislodge the obstruction. Standing abruptly, he clutched his throat, making desperate choking gestures while his face turned purple from oxygen deprivation. The crowd initially cheered louder, assuming his gestures were showmanship. Only Amanda recognized genuine distress and rushed on stage, attempting the Heimlich maneuver with all her strength. However, the blockage was too large and firmly wedged. Reese collapsed onto the table, scattering hot dogs as his body convulsed violently. Judge Johnson called emergency assistance while competitors stopped eating, watching in horror. Paramedics arrived within 4 minutes but couldn't remove the obstruction using standard procedures. An emergency tracheotomy was attempted, but Reese had suffered irreversible brain damage from oxygen deprivation. At 12:47 p.m., just 47 minutes after the contest began, Reese Montgomery was pronounced dead from asphyxiation due to esophageal obstruction. The competitive eating world had lost one of its most promising athletes publicly and tragically. The aftermath was swift. Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest was permanently canceled, ending decades of tradition. Amanda Foster successfully sued organizers for inadequate safety protocols. Joey Martinez, traumatized by witnessing his rival's death, immediately retired from competitive eating. New international regulations were implemented requiring medical personnel at all sanctioned competitions. Reese Montgomery's death served as a sobering reminder that competitive eating carried genuine life-threatening risks, demanding serious safety considerations and medical oversight. It was March 18, 2016, when ambitious food blogger Cora Bellwether made her final reservation at Takeshi's Authentic Sushi in Tokyo's bustling Shibuya district. At 31, Cora had built a modest following of 1,500 devoted readers who craved her fearless culinary adventures. The petite brunette from Portland possessed an insatiable appetite for extreme dining experiences, often traveling thousands of miles to sample the world's most dangerous delicacies. Her bubbly personality and infectious enthusiasm had earned her invitations to underground supper clubs and exclusive tasting events across 3 continents. Behind the sushi counter stood Master Chef Hiroshi Yamamoto, a 67-year-old legend whose weathered hands had prepared fugu for 45 years. The silver-haired craftsman held Japan's highest fugu certification and had trained over 200 chefs in the deadly art of pufferfish preparation. Despite his trembling fingers, a recent development he attributed to age, Yamamoto's reputation remained untarnished. That evening, Cora specifically requested the most dangerous fugu experience for her blog. Unknown to both chef and diner, the restaurant's supplier had delivered fish caught during an unusual algae bloom, concentrating lethal tetrodotoxin levels far beyond normal parameters. At 8:30 p.m., Yamamoto began his meticulous preparation ritual. While removing the liver, the most toxic organ, his slightly unsteady hands caused his knife to nick the deadly tissue. Concentrated poison seeped onto his cutting board and blade, contaminating every surface. Unaware of the breach, he continued working with the tainted tools. Cora received the first portion at 8:45 p.m. She savored the initial piece, delighting in the characteristic tingling sensation on her tongue. Within minutes, The numbness spread to her lips and cheeks as tetrodotoxin invaded her nervous system. Initially laughing about the authentic experience, her speech became increasingly slurred. By 9 p.m., paralysis crept through her limbs. Cora's arms fell limp at her sides, her legs refusing to respond. The toxin systematically shut down her peripheral nervous system while leaving her consciousness intact, a cruel characteristic of tetrodotoxin poisoning. She remained fully aware but completely helpless, unable to speak or signal her distress. Her breathing grew labored as the poison reached her diaphragm muscles. At 9:07 p.m., respiratory failure claimed her as her chest stopped rising. Yamamoto noticed her blue-tinged face and realized his catastrophic error, but precious minutes had already passed. Emergency responders arrived at 9:15 p.m., attempting artificial respiration, but cardiac arrest had already begun. Cora Bellwether was pronounced dead at 9:43 p.m., another victim of humanity's dangerous relationship with deadly cuisine. The incident destroyed Yamamoto's legacy. His license was permanently revoked, forcing him to close his restaurant in disgrace. International scrutiny followed, sparking heated debates about fugu safety regulations. Cora's family pursued legal action against both the restaurant and Japanese authorities for inadequate oversight. The supplier faced charges for violating safety protocols by failing to test toxin levels during the algae bloom period. What began as a quest for culinary adventure ended in tragedy, reminding the world that some experiences carry the ultimate price. Her final blog post, scheduled to publish automatically, never appeared, a digital ghost of dreams cut short by one master's trembling hands. It was June 8, 2014, when 16-year-old Astrid Thorne walked into Bubble Bliss Tea Shop in San Francisco's Mission District with her best friend Chloe Park. The petite 5'4" debate team captain had just finished her final SAT prep session and was buzzing with excitement about summer plans. Astrid possessed infectious enthusiasm that made her a formidable debate competitor. She dreamed of attending Stanford Law School and becoming a civil rights attorney. Her parents, both educators, had instilled in her a love of learning and adventurous spirit when trying new experiences. Tea shop owner Mrs. Kim Sato, a 45-year-old Korean immigrant, had built her business over 12 years, serving authentic bubble tea to San Francisco's diverse community. Her establishment was a popular after-school hangout known for creative flavors and generous portions. Astrid's eyes gravitated toward the Mega Pearl Challenge, featuring extra-large tapioca pearls measuring 15 millimeters in diameter. Always embracing challenges, she ordered the specialty drink despite Chloe's warnings about the oversized pearls. Mrs. Sato prepared the taro-flavored beverage with practiced efficiency. At 3:47 p.m., Astrid began drinking through the wide straw designed for bubble tea. Eager to impress Chloe, she attempted to consume multiple large pearls simultaneously. The undercooked tapioca spheres, harder than they should have been due to insufficient preparation, created an unexpected hazard. 7 extra-large pearls suddenly lodged in Astrid's throat, forming a complete blockage preventing airflow. Her face flushed red as she clawed desperately at her neck, eyes wide with terror. The pearls created a solid mass that couldn't be dislodged through coughing. Chloe's screams pierced the afternoon calm as Astrid collapsed onto the tiled floor, convulsing from oxygen deprivation. Mrs. Sato rushed over, attempting the Heimlich maneuver desperately, but her efforts proved insufficient against the obstruction. College student Alex Chen dialed 911 while other patrons gathered around. Some were inappropriately filmed with smartphones as Astrid's lips turned blue. The tapioca pearls absorbed saliva, swelling and making the blockage more complete. Astrid's body went into violent spasms as her brain was deprived of oxygen. By 3:52 p.m., she had lost consciousness entirely. Paramedics arrived at 3:58 p.m., attempting emergency procedures to clear the obstruction, but the pearl mass was too firmly lodged. At 4:31 p.m., Astrid Thorne was pronounced dead from asphyxiation caused by tapioca pearl obstruction, her promising future cut short by what should have been a simple after-school treat. The aftermath proved devastating. Bubble Bliss closed permanently following health department investigations revealing improper food preparation protocols. Mrs. Sato faced criminal charges for serving inadequately prepared products posing unreasonable consumer risks. The incident sparked widespread bubble tea industry regulation changes, requiring warning labels on drinks with large pearls and mandatory shop owner training regarding proper tapioca preparation techniques. Astrid's heartbroken parents established the Astrid Thorne Food Safety Foundation, educating teenagers about dining hazards and promoting safer food service practices. Chloe required months of therapy to process witnessing her best friend's sudden death during what should have been a celebratory afternoon. The tragedy reminded everyone that seemingly innocent treats can pose unexpected dangers when proper safety protocols aren't followed. It was February 22, 2015, when Isabella Chen's passion for artisanal cheese led to her final tasting. Isabella, a 42-year-old food critic with an impeccable reputation, stood barely 5 feet 5 inches but commanded respect throughout San Francisco's culinary scene. Her 2 published books on artisanal dairy products had established her as the city's foremost cheese authority. What few knew was that recent chemotherapy treatments had left her immune system dangerously compromised, a secret she guarded fiercely to protect her career. That afternoon, Isabella entered Fromage Boutique with her dedicated assistant, David Kim, a meticulous 31-year-old who documented every detail of her tastings. They were there to sample the cave-aged Roquefort Supreme, an 18-month-aged delicacy that would feature in Isabella's upcoming cooking show appearance. François Dubois, the 58-year-old shop owner, proudly presented the cheese he had personally imported from a small French producer. The wheel displayed an unusual blue-green mold pattern that caught Isabella's trained eye. Margaret Thompson, the boutique's 45-year-old cheese expert, assured them the distinctive coloring was characteristic of extended cave aging in limestone caverns. At precisely 3:45 p.m., Isabella sampled a generous 2-ounce portion, her refined palate detecting what she described as a uniquely earthy flavor profile. David scribbled notes as she analyzed the texture and complexity. Within 15 minutes, Isabella's expression shifted from professional concentration to visible discomfort. Severe abdominal cramping doubled her over as waves of nausea overwhelmed her petite frame. The toxic mold spores, later discovered to originate from industrial runoff contaminating the aging caves, began their devastating assault on her already weakened immune system. Her face flushed crimson as her body temperature spiked to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The mycotoxins coursed through her bloodstream, triggering a cascade of organ failure that her compromised system couldn't combat. At 4:07 p.m., Isabella collapsed, blood streaming from her mouth as the toxins ravaged her stomach lining. David frantically dialed 911 while François and Margaret attempted to help, but Isabella's condition deteriorated with terrifying speed. Her breathing became labored as the poison attacked her respiratory system. Her kidneys, overwhelmed by the toxic load, began shutting down alongside her liver. By 4:15 p.m., Isabella had lost consciousness, her body succumbing to septic shock as her blood pressure plummeted. Her heart rhythm became erratic under the mycotoxins' assault. Emergency responders arrived at 4:23 p.m. to find her in complete multi-organ failure. Despite aggressive medical intervention, the poisoning had progressed beyond reversal. At 6:31 p.m., Isabella Chen was pronounced dead, her pursuit of culinary excellence having led to her tragic end. The aftermath was swift and severe. Fromage Boutique closed immediately, and all imported cheeses were quarantined for testing. The French producer faced lawsuits for safety violations, while new FDA regulations mandated mycotoxin testing for imported aged cheeses. David, traumatized by witnessing Isabella's death, abandoned food journalism entirely, unable to separate his memories of that February afternoon from his former passion. Isabella's legacy lived on through enhanced food safety protocols, ensuring no other connoisseur would pay such a devastating price for their dedication to artisanal excellence. It was April 30th, 2026, when Forrest Greenwood's expertise became his undoing at a trendy farm-to-table restaurant in Portland, Oregon. Forrest, a weathered 44-year-old mycologist standing 5 feet 9 inches tall, had spent 2 decades building his reputation as Portland's premier wild mushroom forager. His sun-lined face and calloused hands told the story of countless hours spent in Oregon's dense forests, identifying edible fungi with scientific precision. Known for his meticulous nature and passionate dedication to mycology, Forrest supplied premium wild mushrooms to the city's most exclusive restaurants. That evening, Forrest arrived at the upscale establishment alongside his colleague, 37-year-old Dr. Sarah Walsh, a fellow mycologist with whom he frequently collaborated on research projects. The restaurant's head chef, 39-year-old Marcus Beaumont, had worked closely with Forrest for 3 years, trusting his expertise implicitly. Marcus, an ambitious culinary artist, known for his innovative approach to Pacific Northwest cuisine, had designed a 12-course wild mushroom tasting menu, specifically featuring Forrest's latest forage. The fatal error had occurred days earlier when Forrest's assistant, 28-year-old River Johnson, misidentified a batch of mushrooms while Forrest recovered from a severe flu. River, eager to prove himself capable, had mistakenly included death cap mushrooms among what should have been safe chanterelles. The restaurant lacked any secondary verification system, relying entirely on Forrest's reputation. At 7:30 p.m., Forrest consumed the contaminated 7th course, savoring what he believed were perfectly prepared chanterelles. The deadly amatoxins began their silent assault on his liver and kidneys immediately, though Forrest felt completely normal. He spent the evening discussing mycology with other diners, his enthusiasm infectious as he described the subtle flavors of each variety. The insidious nature of amatoxin poisoning meant Forrest experienced no symptoms for 6 hours. At 1:30 a.m., severe abdominal cramping struck him at home. The toxins had begun systematically destroying his liver cells, causing rapid organ failure. Forrest's body convulsed with violent nausea as he recognized the terrifying symptoms he had only read about in medical journals. Dr. Walsh, staying nearby for a conference, rushed to Forrest's aid when he called in distress. By 3 a.m., bloody diarrhea indicated the toxins were ravaging his intestinal lining. Sarah immediately recognized the classic progression of amatoxin poisoning and called emergency services, though she feared they were already too late. Forrest's skin developed a sickly yellow hue as his liver failed completely. The toxins simultaneously attacked his kidneys, causing them to shut down. His decades of knowledge couldn't save him from the microscopic killers coursing through his bloodstream. By 6 a.m., Forrest had lost consciousness as multiple organ systems failed in a cascade. Paramedics found Forrest in critical condition, his blood pressure dangerously low as his cardiovascular system struggled against the overwhelming toxin load. Despite aggressive medical intervention at the hospital, the amatoxins had progressed beyond any hope of reversal. The same expertise that had made Forrest Portland's most trusted forager had been undermined by a single moment of misplaced trust. Forrest Greenwood was pronounced dead at 2:47 p.m. from amatoxin poisoning and complete liver failure, just 19 hours after consuming the deadly mushrooms he had unknowingly provided. The tragedy sent shockwaves through Portland's culinary community. The farm-to-table restaurant closed permanently within days. River Johnson faced criminal charges for negligent identification, his promising career destroyed by one catastrophic mistake. New regulations mandated dual verification for all wild mushroom identification, while Forrest's family pursued legal action against the restaurant for inadequate safety protocols. The incident sparked nationwide restrictions on wild mushroom service in restaurants, forever changing how the culinary industry approached foraged ingredients. Forrest's death served as a sobering reminder that even the most experienced experts remain vulnerable to nature's deadliest deceptions. Don't let these shocking stories be the end. Click the next video for even more unbelievable tales of human stupidity that will completely blow your mind.